It is Meet Your Husband O'Clock, episode 6, and we're so excited about how we have been growing through this journey and just showing you the possibility of just how you can meet your husband in unimaginable ways and even in a timeline that you were not thinking about, because literally is around you, but you probably may not be aware because there are some things that you need to open your eyes to, some biases you need to break down, and everything in between, which is what we do over here. Today we have an amazing guest. She has been married for 19 years at the time of this recording, so 19 years plus and counting, and she will be learning from her on how she met her husband. We'll be learning a journey on how she met her husband. So I'll add her right away so we can get right into the conversation. Watching this on YouTube, you're going to be learning a whole lot. All right, our guest is coming up. I just sent a request. Okay. Thank you so much, Ma, for choosing to be here. I think you have to turn the camera. Yes, you've done it. Thank you so much, Alayode, for choosing to be here. I'm so grateful. And I'm particularly excited about this episode because, like, you're a calm person and all that. So I want to know how you met your husband with your personality and everything. And that's one of the interesting thing about this series that we're doing. We bring all kinds of women with all kinds of personalities because there's not one kind of personality that gets married the most. Whoever it is you are, whatever your personality, it is possible for you. We just want to help you break down some barriers and biases. Okay, regarding Mrs. Alayode, as a profile, as it regards this conversation, because it's much more than what I'm going to share. She has been married for 19 years, got married at the age of 24. Met her husband in secondary school. Wow, it's going to be an interesting story. She's a chartered accountant and a family life practitioner. His tribe is Yoruba, and same with her tribe as well. And they are both Christians. So we'll get right onto the keynote question of the day. This is Alayode. How did you meet your husband? Please tell us the story. We want the full story from the beginning to the end.
Okay, thank you very much for even this opportunity and sharing your platform with me. Okay, so how I met my husband. Okay, so we went to the same secondary school in Ibadan. But we're not the same set. He was 2 years ahead of me, and I didn't even know him in secondary school. It was when he came back to the secondary school. So, okay, so the secondary school was in Ibadan, and then he was in UI at the time. So I was in SS3 at this time, and I was in the boarding house. And so apparently they had organized a 3-day event in the school. So the first and the second day, I wasn't there. So at the end of the second day, I was just, overhearing some juniors. I was in SS3 at the time. I was overhearing some juniors say, oh, there are some people that came to the fellowship, and, it was an amazing time. It was different. It was mind-blowing. Like, I never experienced that before. And it was going to be the following was going to be the last day. So I said, okay, that I would, attend the fellowship and, see what, they were talking about and all of that. And then, I attended the program. So he was there with a couple of, other guys, about 5 guys or so. And the fellowship was amazing. I mean, I never experienced anything like that. There were words of knowledge, words of wisdom, all manner of, expressions of the Spirit. And I'm like, these young guys, as in, what's going on and all of that. Of course, in that program, I rededicated my life to Christ and all of that. And, the program ended, of course, you now talk to them and all of that. I still nothing really stuck. They were just these men of God that came to shake our, secondary school and all of that. So when I finished SS3, I got admission into University of Ibadan, and it was already there. So I got in 100 level. He was now in 200 level. So of course now, because they were the ones that established us in the faith and all of that. So when we got into university, all of us we dedicated our lives, and so I did not, okay, but not all of us. I was one of those who continued, with the church that they were going to at the time. So that was how, the relationship really started. He was a pastor in the church. It was a very small church. Even our pastor at the time was still in the university, but a bunch of committed, God-loving people, So that was how, we started, and then church, and, and he was the church administrator at the time, but he was such a respected person. Everybody respected him. Everybody, was very comfortable talking to him. Everybody knew that he was a word-based person, as in, he could preach the word. He was just a very likable person. He was someone that if you had anything on your mind, whatever it was, you could go and meet him, and then he will explain to you. You could also gist with him. Everybody had that kind of, relationship with him. So that was it. And so that was how the relationship was. You could just, I remember there was one time I had menstrual cramp and all of that, and he was passing by, and then he stopped by, and I told him, and then he said I should bring communion, and he prayed with me. I took the communion, and that was the end of menstrual cramps. That was in university and all of that. So it was that kind of person that everybody just he was a go-to. He was balanced. You could laugh with him. It was not extreme. You could get lovely perspective from God's word. So fast forward to 300 level. That was how, he said he wanted to see me. Okay, so I'm now even going to how he proposed. So I think that's how we met, Sha. So I don't know whether I'm jumping.
Yes, so let me come in there to ask some more questions regarding that.
But that was how we met, and started rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to know, when you got to the fellowship that day, that night, and you encountered everything, even rededicated your life to Christ, that was the first time you met him. Did he meet you at that particular point, at that day? Okay, so was there any form of conversation? I know it will most likely be about the program, but was there any inkling or anything like, this is the kind of person I would like, even though you're like, oh, it may not be possible? I mean, that day or even that week.
That day. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. It was purely, oh, these people are amazing, doing amazing stuff. There was no inkling, there was nothing.
Okay, so what kind of relationship did you start having with your husband afterwards? Because you shared with us that you were having menstrual cramp and he was able to help in the healing process. So what kind of relationship? Was it sort of like a mentee relationship, or was it just, hey, sister of the fellowship kind of relationship? I would like you to please help us understand the kind of relationship you were having even before you got into UI.
Oh no! Before I got into UI in secondary school, there were just a few times that they will come back to the fellowship. All of them, there were about 5 people in the church, so it wasn't the only one coming back, and we were just you know, just general, follow up and all of that. Nothing to suspect anything at all. It was
Wow.
purely, you know, these are the people that we led to Christ, you know, and, you know, so there was nothing. Even
Nothing.
till the day he proposed in 300 level, there was nothing.
Wow. Imagine. Okay, I'll ask some more questions as we go along. Also, please share with us. So, how did he approach you? Which is what you wanted to get into now. How did he approach you? What was the conversation like that day? And of course, I'll ask other questions as we go along.
Okay, yeah. So he was in the quarters in the UI at the time. So I think I can't remember the day what day of the week it was, but the day he proposed was December 15, 1997. That's a long time, you know. But you know, he just said he wanted to see me in the evening, you know. So I said okay, that I will come and see. As I was going towards, because I was in Queen's Hall and then Quarters was still down, you know, the social sciences, that was where his place was with a couple of people, you know. It didn't, as I was even walking down there, it didn't occur to me because he was friends with everyone. There was nobody that, you know, he was specially close to, that you could say, oh, is there something? Everybody could go to meet him. You know, everybody had access to him. He was not, you know, cornering people, and you know, you think, is this person trying to, you know, propose to this person, or are they having? There was nobody that I thought maybe he was, you know, a university setting and, you know, bro and all of those, but there was nothing like that, you know. There was no one I thought maybe, is he trying to get engaged to? Nobody. So that when I was walking towards him, his room that day, you know, there was nothing on my mind. So when I got there and, you know, he was like, he believes I'm the one. And so I was just like, as in, if you thought, oh, something like this was coming up, he was in 400 level then, and I was in 300 level. So I was just like, okay. So he reminded me sometime after that, you know, what I said was, why me? As in, why have you chosen me? Because I was not expecting anything at all. You know,
Yes.
that why me? You know, and I can't remember what he said now, that, you know, why me and all of that. So I just said, okay, I'll think about it, and I will think about it. And 4 months after, April 1998, I said yes.
Wow. Okay. Now, this is just the beginning. How do we even start? Because this is your own. We've been doing this is episode 6, and Miss Alayode, this is your own meeting is special. It is special. How do you say okay? You are not even looking at him or looking like there's nothing like that. But we will go through it now. The question now is: so those 4 months that you took out to, well, I believe most likely pray. So, what were the things you started thinking about? And this would be really important, especially for the audience that this series is for. What did you start thinking about when you were thinking about, okay, I'm praying? While you were thinking, praying, and watching? What were the things you started looking out for? What were the things you were not even convinced about, but perhaps you handed over to God? Please just take us through that. Did it look like a person you had in mind? Because naturally, if women plan to get married, even from the age of 7 upward, then yeah, they already have the kind of Prince Charming they want in mind, or that has been sold to them. So could you take us through that journey of looking at him? Did he fit that picture? And just the different work that you and God had to do together before you said yes.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, when he proposed on that day, and you know, afterwards, I said, okay, I'll think about it. Now, this was someone that, you know, we could gist, maybe after service, you know, you just talk about different things. Immediately he proposed like this. Me, I just went quiet on him as in it now became a bit awkward. As in the relationship now just became a bit awkward because I was like, you know, if you were smiling, you know, there was nothing to your smile. But now if we're talking and you know you now want to smile, I don't know what it can mean or anything like that, you know. So the relationship became a bit awkward immediately after he proposed, you know. And I think, you know, when I think through the whole process, one thing I knew about him was he had a relationship with God. And that was fundamental. In fact, that was the primary thing. I wanted someone who had a practical relationship with God and who, you know, who could pattern, you know, his life after God, somebody who was hearing God. And when I think about this, of course, I was still just a growing Christian and all of that. And my thoughts then were like, if I'm not even really hearing God for myself, as in that God is speaking to me, like, let me join myself with somebody who I know is hearing God do that. You know, those were my thoughts then, that let me align myself with somebody who is hearing God do, and I know that I am safe. So those were, you know, the kind of thoughts I used to have, that somebody who hears God, who follows God, is priority for me. And on a lighter note, I think that time, so I was like, you know, those fantasies, like you said, like maybe from age 7, you can start to have ideas and all of that.
Yes,
I really like, I wouldn't mind somebody who has a teddy, you know, and you know, the beard gang and all of that. But those were just, you know, flimsy, you know, just, but they were fantasies, you know. Interestingly, he had, you know, he was keeping a beard at the time, you know, a very nice, steady at the time, you know. So I was like, so the journey. So when I started to pray about it, you know, like, God, is this your will? You know, what's, you know, and like I said, the things that were, you know, that I saw, you know, I liked, in the sense that I knew he was a straightforward person. I knew that, you know, he feared God, you know, his dealings with people. I knew he commanded respect from everyone. But I just wondered that, this is the future. This is what I know. As in, will this person change? Or, you know, just like, you know, you're starting out now, you don't really know what is in the future and all of that. So those were some of the fears I had, that, do I know this person enough to commit my life to this person and all of that? And then coupled with the fact that, you know, he was a pastor. And somewhere in my mind, I was like, I'm not getting married to a pastor that, you know, everything would be church, you know. I wanted somebody who was romantic, you know, somebody. And interestingly, it turns out that I'm not even the romantic one. I'm just learning to be romantic, you know.
I like that you brought out that
I'm
because
just
you wanted something in somebody that you were not. Well, at the time, since you say you're learning.
as we journeyed, I realized that I was not very romantic, and I was saying I wanted somebody who was romantic. So those were some of my concerns, that you know, the pastor, you know, that, you know, you may not really have a life, you know, of your own, and it may just be consumed by church. You won't have time for family. You know, those were like, I'm not sure I want to commit to this. But as I prayed and all of that, and then there was some time when, you know, I was not hearing God, as in, I didn't know whether to say yes. I didn't really feel like, you know, God was giving me an answer. But you know, from hindsight, I realized that God wanted me to get to a place where, you know, I was going to say yes for myself, start up, and then, you know, trust him to lead you, so that, you know, it's not a case of God told me to, you know, it's not a case of, God, if not for you, I would not have done this. So it's you that said, you know. So in that process, you know, I was just praying, and I remember, and then within this period, there was ASU strike. So after the December break, when he proposed to me, there was ASU strike. So that April 19 that I even said yes, we're back in school, you know. So within those 4 months, we were at home. So it was just phone conversations and all of that that we were having. You know, there was one time I was reading my Bible, and I think this was my first revelation or something. I was reading a portion of my Bible, which I'd even read, I think, a week before then. But this time around, you know, as I opened the book, and I've tried to recall where this scripture was again, but I can't find it. But this was what I read there, you know, that a man shall be a covering, you know, from the rain and the sun. And I knew instantly that God was telling me, excuse me, that, you know, he was the one for me. As I opened my eyes and saw that scripture, I knew that, you know, God was telling me that he was the one for me. So coupled with the fact that I now got into a place where I liked his person, I knew, okay, what I can see from our, you know, our time together, you know, I like is someone who is committed to God, and, you know, we can work on this journey together. So when I had that experience, you know, I knew that this was confirmation that, you know, God wanted this relationship. So, you know, then he will still call me after I found out that I was just, you know, thanking God. And I said, okay, I was not going to give my answer over the phone, that when we got back, by this time, you know, they had already announced the date and all of that. And later I was telling him that when I told him that I wanted to see him before I give him my answer, I knew that it was a yes, that it was a no, that I would have said it over the phone.
Wow.
You know, so that's how we started.
Story is mesmerizing. I really like. I enjoy your story. Thank you so much, Ma, for choosing to share this with us. So, Ma, how did you? What was dating like for you? But before we go to what dating was like for you and how many years you dated, typically he didn't start today. And the way you described your husband, he must have been a fine youth pastor. This means that there were probably one or two women or girls like looking at, maybe we asked me out or something. Perhaps, I'm just assuming. Did you have to deal with that? Like when we're like, so this the person is now with. I thought it was going to be me or whatever. Like, I don't think those stories will ever get old in fellowship circle. Did you have to contend with that kind of situation where the women or the Christian ladies around were wondering that, oh, okay, I thought somehow the pastor was going to end up with me. Or maybe him sharing.
Yes, there was a bit.
I'm sure. I was too sure. No, I say, or him sharing stories to you. Maybe you didn't know. But I'm so sure that this scenario was going to play out. Sorry.
Yes, there was a bit of that I think I started noticing. And I think more because, you know, the church had already started. It was when I entered, you know, the university, UI, that, you know, I now joined the church. So, you know, that setting was already there. There were already, you know, some women, some ladies, you know, and I think I just joined, you know, so maybe there was, you know, but it was not a strong thing, you know, because it wasn't like, you know, there was any extra thing I was doing that somebody would have thought, oh, she's trying to do something. It was a shock to everybody that, so he had even, you know, because nobody thought anything. He was friends with everybody. So maybe some people thought, oh, he was going to come to them or something, you know, but there was just a tiny bit, I think, you know, that so is her, you know, as in, you know, but nothing that lasted too long, actually. Nothing that, you know, nothing out of but I guess some people were just like, so she just came like that.
Where did she come from? Okay. Yeah, but like you said, nothing that cannot be contained because it's upsetting. It can get quite dramatic.
Exactly. No, no. Yeah,
Okay.
nothing outrageous.
And this is a point. I usually say the point before I move to the next question. That many times in circles, whether fellowship or churches, the single women are always waiting and looking for the pastor or the associate pastor. Like we may not even marry from the top. But anyway, let me just skip that by conversation to something to another video. Okay, but so how did you now? What was your dating period like, and how long was it for before you got married? What I mean was a little bit, all right, if you could take us into what things and well, I don't want to say things and processes like it was supposed to be rigid, but like how it was. So is it that you were doing Bible study? What was that period like when you both were dating?
Okay, so I mean, started dating, courting in my third year. He was in final year, so we had 1 year to we were both on campus, so we had 1 year to get to know each other, engage and all of that. And I think that 1 year, really really helped us. I mean, we used to have very healthy conversations. We really got close within that 1 year. I knew him, he knew me. We really hit it off very very fast. It was a really wonderful um, bond building 1 year, and then he had to go to Delta for his youth service right after that, and then on he started working there. So over that time it was a bit of like a long distance relationship and all of that. And then there were times he would come back and stay with his sister, here in Lagos. Because when I finished too, I came back to Lagos. So it was, that period was there were so many things that we had known about each other. We courted for 5 years.
Okay.
We courted for 5 years. We got married in 2003. So that period, we didn't even have to wait that long. We had already known each other, for the courtship period, really brought us together. As in, we knew it solidified, the fact that we were meant to be with each other. That period of proving what God has said, what you felt you heard and all of that. So it was a period of conviction, a period of knowing and becoming stronger, together. So it was, our courtship period was really a wonderful time. Even though he wasn't always around, he was in worry, but we managed to keep the conversation. And those were the days of NITEL cards. Yeah, and pay for the card, you go and wait, and then you are talking slowly. You don't want to shout because there are people around you, and you don't want to.
Oh my God.
And then we had codes to say different things so that if you mention something, nobody would understand what you were saying. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So at what point would you say after the time you had gotten the conviction from God to go ahead to court him, start courtship with him, what did you need or have any form of other conviction when you both now finally decided to get married? At the point where you decided to get married, and for you, what was your yes point? Like, okay, I've been with this man and I know and I'm sure I want to spend the rest of my life with him. Were there any key points that you saw, or it was just the same conviction from when you started courtship with him?
So there was something that happened a month right into our courtship. And I said that we started courting April 19, 1998. Now, my birthday is in May, so the birthday of that year, of course, just a few weeks after, something really happened that, made me know that, it was like a confirmation. I remember I said that, the scripture that God gave me was, a man shall be a covering from the rain and from the sun. And interestingly, my present, the present that he gave me, a month after, was an unusual gift, but for me, it was a confirmation. And what was it? It was an umbrella.
Wow.
Even though, that was not a conventional gift, and I thought umbrella, those were the days of, cakes, chocolates, wines and all of that. But that was what money could afford at that time. It was on allowance. It was on weekly allowance, So that was what he could afford. But God helped me to see, beyond the physical, because an umbrella a month, into our, courtship, and what God had said, to me, it was like a confirmation, that yes, this is somebody that would protect you, So that was a very strong, conviction for me, So I looked beyond, the flesh, beyond, I would have liked a cake. I stuck to the fact that this was spiritual. This was God confirming to me. So, I mean, that was another confirmation apart from what God has said, for me. Wow. I think that's the strongest I can remember, now. So.
Okay. So on the part
of course,
No, I wanted to say, so when you were going to get married, you didn't have any sort of doubt or any reason to say, do I wait a bit? Because sometimes people go through courtship and dating, and then it's time to get married. They're still saying, okay, no, let me start another prayer circle. I'm just wondering what it was for you.
No. There was nothing like that. In fact, it was growing conviction.
Okay.
It was, conviction that was growing. Yeah, there was no doubt. There were no second thoughts. During our courtship that, wow. Maybe there was somebody else. Maybe it wasn't nothing like that.
Oh my God. Okay. So moving on to the next question. I want to thank you so much, everybody that has stayed watching this. If you've got a question for Mrs. Alayode, please use the question icon to ask your question. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's a good time to like, subscribe, and share so that more people can see this episode and meet their husbands. Did you have any obstacles on your journey to marrying each other? Any form of obstacle, whether financial, in-laws, or any form of obstacles when you both decided, okay, so this is the date or this is the potential date, let's get married?
In terms of in-laws, no. In fact, there was a general acceptance. In fact, it was unusual. At that time, I just had started writing my ICANN exams, and my dad wanted me to finish and all of that, but he had been accepted in my home. I had been accepted in his home. There were no issues at all, So, I mean, with my dad, what we just struck a deal was, I was going to get married at the time that we planned, although I think we wanted to get married in December, but we eventually moved it to March, but that was about the only, and I promised my dad that, I was going to continue with my, ICANN exams, that my marriage wasn't going to stop that, So, I mean, those were really the conversations we had about, is it time? It wasn't anything about, are you sure, or anything like that. It was more like, timing, are you sure you are ready to go on, your exams, it's working offshore, blah, blah. So that was...
Okay, that's the situation. So,
really yeah.
So, I want to ask you about feelings and emotions, because like you rightly shared, your own story is unique. There was no, all those things. that usually would be sold in a love story on how the person meets their husband or husband meets the wife wasn't your typical story. So how did you both, well, especially you now, because you're the one we have here, start growing the feelings and emotions, or what was the feelings and emotion department like, especially when he had asked you out? So is it that God started to bring it, or just hanging out and spending time with him started to grow that? Please share with us, because many people in this generation, if they think that they're not feeling a certain kind of butterfly for a person, sometimes people dismiss such men. So I would like you to please share with that how that department, or how you dealt with that department.
Okay, I mean, like I said, the conversations we have, the interactions that we had, I liked him. From this is a nice person. This person fears God. So I was comfortable around him. In that aspect. If he was somebody you could gist with, and you would share stuff. That was the kind of person. So I already knew that, he was a relatable person. He was down to earth. You could have enjoyable conversations with him. So the real question for me was, God, is this your will? As in, if I know it's your will, I would say yes. So it wasn't like I did not like him and, God said, this is your person. And then like I felt like somebody was forced on me. No, it was nothing like that. It was a case of God. From what I see, I like this person. I feel we can, we can be together. But God, you know everything. This is what I know. 5 years down the line, in the future, 10 years down the line, would I still feel this way? So those were really the things I was, trusting that, God will help give me a conviction about and let me know that I was on the right course. Of course, feelings grow, with time. They get more, as your convictions grow, you become more convinced that you made the right choice.
Yeah. So for you, it was more you had your foundational value right from what you shared, and it wasn't about feelings first. It was about the foundation you shared with us, which is a man who hears from God. Before we go on to continue asking questions about you, as a family life practitioner, Mrs. Alayode, you got married at 24 in your own time. Why do you think that it seems, or is seeming, increasingly difficult for young people in this day and age to get married at, well, their early 20s? Because maybe no time is early or late, but in their early 20s used to be what it used to be back then, and even till a few years ago. But now, I mean, 32, including guys, so this is not even exclusive to girls, because guys are the ones that will ask the girls out, like 30 something, even 40. People are just chilling. What do you think is going on in this generation differently from what had happened in previous years regarding marriage?
Okay, from my own perspective, what I think is, a lack of focus. Like you don't know what you want to try everything. You are very physical in your approach. It's, I like this, I like the way she walks, I like the way he dresses, I like the way he speaks, I like, all of those. He schooled abroad. She speaks Pone, she fits me, I like the way she dresses, all of those, physical things, and then I think that those are some of the, things that, because you're just like, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, not first checking, what do you want? What do you, who are you? And do you have a relationship with God? Where do you think you are going? This person that is in front of you, do you see anything that, can suggest that both of you have a future together? Are your values aligned? And if you are ready to settle down, you can almost detect, is this person ready to settle down? You can, from the conversations, you know, from lifestyle, from outlook, you can tell, man, this person still needs some growing up to do. This person is not ready for commitment, you know. But if you are not really certain about what you want as a person, or you are also posturing like, you know, let's sample, let's see what's up, you know, let us, you know, and then we will decide, you know, from all of the, you know, it just, you know, goes, because the point is you are focused, you know what you want, you know what is not a consideration, you know what is a nice to have. You can separate what is a must have in a relationship. You can separate what is a nice to have, as in, okay, we can work on this, is a nice to have, but this is a must have. So when people are dancing around you, there's no must, this person doesn't have the must haves, you eliminate, they are not even part of the consideration, you know. But when you are not able to, you know, make that clear distinction, oh, you know, it's just going to, you know, take some time, a lot of trial and error, a lot of, oh, let's just see how it is, you know. But if you are focused, if you are focused, you know, you can have alignment, you can have areas that you are working on, but you know where you are going, you know what the goal is, you know. And as you progress, you know, if it's not aligning, you know that, oh, we, you know, these are the areas that we are working on, but it doesn't seem to be gelling, I'm not sure, you know. You can have conversations, you know, but the conversations are targeted, not that we are just there, we are just, you know. I think those are the things that just delay. You're not able to make up your mind on time, you know. Your options are, you know, are there even really options, you know?
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Alayode. You're so correct, and especially when you said very physical to the approach and lack of focus. Many people very physical in terms of, some people don't even want to, for me, they don't even want to consider a short man. And I'm just wondering, are you about content, which is what you said, focus? Is that what is going to, is it the height that will keep a married? But some people, they don't know, which is why, of course, we started this meet your husband. They don't know that you're giving off, you may be giving off, don't approach me vibes to a person who you haven't, who is not in that your, what this persona that you've arranged in your head, or you've been sold to about what an ideal husband will look like. And I trust that this session is bringing clarity to a lot of people. Did you have any fears before you got married? If yes, what were your fears?
Fears. I think maybe, you know, the usual, oh, will this person change? You know, this is the person, you know, you don't know what's coming in the future. You know that, you know, how will this person respond in the future? This is, you know, so I think those were the fears that I had, you know, that, and I think nobody has been to the future, you know. So, but it's based on it's based on the things that you see now, the things, you know, those are the, you know, somebody said trust, you know, somebody explained what trust is, you know, and it has just stuck, and I use that a lot when, you know, said trust is you being able to, you know, predict the future based on what you can see now. So trust is not blind. Trust is not, you know, just, you know, you just, how do you put it? You know, you just hand over trust based on the things that you see now, based on demonstrations now, based on, you know, what is obvious now, not in the future. You can make a commitment, you can make, you know, you can rely on the things that you are saying now, that based on this, you know, this is what is likely to happen. So there's substance, there's something to hold on to in the now about the future. That is trust. And, you know, there were enough of that to be able to say, you know, whatever comes our way, you know, we can, you know, we can surmount it.
Okay. What about expectations? What sort of expectations did you have before getting married, and when you finally got married, did it align? Were there some mis-expectations or some expectations that were over the top? Or was it just for you? You just didn't have like nothing big, and then you just continued to ride along? If you could share with us about expectations before getting married.
Okay, I mean, expectations. I mean, I felt like, okay, when we get married, things will just fall in line, a nice house, nice cars, things, everything will just be aligning, will be growing and, all of that. But 1 year into our marriage, my husband resigned his job. In fact, God had told him that, he was going to resign. So it wasn't like it sprung on him a year after he resigned and all of that. And of course, that left us with just, my income to, for us to work on. But, we had already agreed that in the first year of our marriage, we're not going to have kids and all of that. So this was just still us. And of course, I was still an associate in the audit firm, still collecting peanuts, So, I mean, that was like a wake-up call, because he was out of a job for about a year before, he got another one. And so that entire year, we were living on our income. And, I mean, when I think about it, that period, it could have broken some marriages, or it could have led to, a really nasty path that it will take years, to recover from and all of that. But that 1 year actually, strengthened our relationship. It actually brought us closer, so it was like a test of our foundation. And the Bible, talked about, the wind, the rain, the floods would fall upon the house on the sand and the house on the rock. So those experiences will happen to any kind of marriage, They vary, but every marriage will go through a test of, its strength. And, that time of, having just one income, it's even easier if it's the head of the family, that has the income, and then, you are holding on and all of that. So the dynamics are very different if, you are used to two incomes and then it's now the wife. But, we were able to navigate those waters and we came out stronger. So it's possible to overcome any challenge in marriage. Once you focus on the two individuals, you focus on each other and not on the challenge. You focus on each other, you are able to overcome whatever challenge, whether it's waiting on a child, whether it's in-law issues, whatever, challenge can come. Once the two of you are aligned and on the same page, you can weather any storm.
Okay. What pleasantly surprised you? Like a pleasant surprise, you didn't really put your expectation in, but you're like, oh, this is nice to have in marriage. Did you have any of that, or can you remember any of that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think, part of the pleasant, surprises for me, I realized that my husband actually, taught me how to respect him by him respecting me. I think that was one of the things that, I learned in the, as we, got along. And there was something that he did that, just helped me to understand this. I remember we were still a very young family then, and we were watching TV, and he was sitting to my left. And, so I asked him to help me get the remote. And he, he could have passed the remote. The way we were, he could have passed the remote to me with his left hand. But in front of me, he put the remote in his right hand and, gave it to me. Another time, I was like, help me pass something. And I was like, maybe throw it at me. Please throw that thing. And he got up to give me the thing. Now, that is big because, sometimes, even when you want to do something nice, you don't want the person to feel like, you are going out of your way to respect them, or, you don't want to feel like, I'm not the man in the relationship, or, so for those two experiences early on in our relationship showed me that, he was willing to show that he respected me. Not only that he respected me, but that he was willing to show it, So, I mean, those were pleasant surprises, and, it helped me to also grow in my ability to, to respect him. So, I mean, I think
that's one pleasant surprise. Thank you, Ma. Have you ever asked your husband what made him choose you when he asked you out back then in school? I would like to know if you know the answer to that, because you definitely would have had like an option of choices.
Yes, so this is what, my husband did. And this was how he got into a relationship. So he had told himself that he wasn't going to get into a relationship until he was 30. This was what he had told himself, and which explains, how his posture was. Remember I said, he was friends with anybody. There was nobody that, would say maybe he was trying to, or he had one special, somebody that was always hanging around. So when he told me that, his thought was he wasn't going to get to the point he was 30, it was believable, because that was my own understanding of, how he used to comport himself. But he said, there was one season that God just arrested him and said, you need to get into a relationship, in this season. And he was like, as in, God, from where to where? As in, I'm not even thinking about it and all of that. But, he knew, that this was God speaking. So this was what he did. This was what he said before I showed up. He said he wrote a list of all the ladies he knew. All the ladies, plus those that as he was writing it down, he knew that never. He wrote everybody's names down. And, he just started eliminating until it was just me standing.
Decision by elimination.
What did you say?
Decision by elimination method. Like in school, we have substitution method, elimination method. So decision by elimination method.
So it was just like, that when he got to me, I ticked all the boxes, that, somebody who he knew was spiritual, somebody who could, relate with, somebody who was practical, somebody that he liked, somebody he felt, was calm, was, cool, that I ticked all of the boxes. He had put, different boxes, as in, what he wanted in a woman, not just, the person must be spiritual, but, what were the things that he was seeing. And so that was how he came to me.
Wow. That is important to know. That's important. I didn't even plan on asking that, but thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Okay, we are getting to the winding down period, and I would like to ask, the question 2 in 1. What has changed from then to now? And when I mean from then to now, I mean it doesn't have to be negative, whether negative, positive, or whatever, including lessons that you may want to share. And this one is even really the most important. How do you work on conflict resolution in your marriage? Because this is one of the top reasons why people get divorced, don't stay in marriages, and then the blog, instead of choosing stories of good marriages, of course, pick bad ones, and then a lot of singles claim that that's what is making them afraid to get married. So if you could share with us how you work on, how you do conflict resolution, and what has changed from then to now, like the early years of your marriage till right now, the 19th year at the time of this recording.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them are really intertwined, as in the way we used to, resolve conflicts and the way that we do it now. I think, earlier on, if I chronicle, our journey where we are now, in terms of how we resolve conflicts and, you know, I think earlier on when we started, so there could be more moments of, oh, if you're upset, maybe, you just take some time, you're not, talking. If they talk to you, if he talks to me, you in all those, you answer with your news, or you just do, or you just, generally bone the person, or you give silent treatment, and then sometimes the person doesn't even know that he has done something safe. It's by your actions that, it starts to know, what did I do? I think that was, from my own perspective, that was how, we started. And, so, longer. But when I think about it and where we are now, I think, those moments where, when we were low on vulnerability as compared to now, because I think, part of it is when you will have somebody that you are vulnerable with, someone that that he doesn't have anything up his sleeves. I think those are part of the things that, compound conflict resolution, because, you don't want to let down your guard. You feel like you have to protect, you have ego. But as you journey, as you mature in your relationship, and, as, you prove the trust that you have for one another, those things are supposed to let down your guard. You are supposed to be more open, more vulnerable. You can share your thoughts. You can share really, what you feel about an issue, because sometimes conflict resolution is about the what, not the why. You say something, but deep down, you are not really expressing how you feel. And if someone is not able to really get, exactly what you mean, exactly what you are trying to communicate, you will always have those brushes. So I think that's what has really helped us, and where we are now, of course, after 19 years, and you working on it, because you can 35 years married, can people start to get divorced, after that, so, but, when you are consistently working and, on your marriage, on being the right person, being, responsible in your marriage, it gets a lot easier. So that's what I found, like, we trust each other, we are committed to the relationship. We both know that nobody has anything, down the sleeves. You communicate, you are transparent, you can share exactly how you feel, and you will not be judged. You are bringing things, to the open. So I think that is what has really helped us. So conflict resolution now is, when somebody is talking, you can listen for what the person is saying. You can apologize. You don't have to flare up, or when somebody is upset, you are upset at that time. I mean, in our younger selves, if somebody is complaining about something, that's when, you want to, give it your own, or remind the person how they too, things you want you are doing, but as you mature, you know that you listen for the person, and you can, bring in your own, thoughts, later on, when you are calm, and you are not trying to be right. Earlier in our relationship, you can want to be right, but now you want peace, so it's not just about being right. You want to get to the root of the matter. You don't want to be right and make the person feel bad. You are not interested in pulling the person down. So those are the ways that we have matured, and we are able to approach our conflicts, more easily. And this is something that actually works for us.
Mm.
Bringing up things. Don't hold things back. Don't cover things. I think that's one of the things I tell myself, and I tell people, look, you need to get to a point where, when you think about your husband, you don't have negative thoughts. Whatever, you don't have resentment. Resentment comes from unresolved issues. So when you think about your spouse and you have something that you don't like, bring it out. It may just be a clarification. It may not even be how you see it. You just need the person to explain and then apologize, or whatever, so, but you need to bring it in the open and not judge based on your own perspective or whatever. So those are the things that have really helped us, in our journey. So it makes conflict resolution a lot easier.
Regarding your personalities, yourself and your husband's personality, is it the same or is it similar? And well, I think I should wait for your answer first before I know if there's even a further question. Do you think you both have similar personalities?
Yes, to a large extent, but he is more of the vocal person. He is more of the facts, bring out the facts, analyze, go deep, and all of that. But I'm not a very vocal person, although I'm a lot better now, from that, but he is more vocal, he is more analytical, drill down, and all of that. But generally,
You have, okay. I just
we are
wanted
like,
because you are like, okay. I think, well, that answers the question because I just wanted to know if, well, same personalities has anything to do with either success rates or whatnot in marriage, or even different personalities. But so far, I think you've answered your own question. Is there anything you would have done differently from, if you go back, if you rewind the time to your dating period, anything you'd have done differently that would have probably given you a better head start in your marriage, or something that would have helped, that would have made life easier that you didn't know?
when I think back, I think what I would probably have done differently is, maybe be more vocal, as in the early part of, or be more trusting. I think maybe, to, I think those are the things that maybe I would have done a bit more, be more expressive, at the start of our relationship, be more in charge of, you know, I think basically that's
Okay.
what I would have done.
Okay, what was premarital education like for you both? Did you have any robust premarital education? If not, what was it like that you believe you both fed on that kept your marriage going and has kept your marriage going up until now?
Okay, so I mean, before marriage, it was a regular, courtship and
Mm,
all of that. From my own part, but from his own part, he had interviewed a bunch of people who were married. He had listened to their stories. He had asked questions. He had, so how is it like? How do you start off? How do you succeed? So there are a couple of
mm,
people that he had spoken to. But I mean, over the years, it is, seminars. Like in my church, we have a month of the year that is dedicated to, relationships, So it is the constant learning, wanting to be better. And I mean, this September, September in our church is the month where we have relationships. And I remember this particular year, I was just like, okay, God, even though I have a healthy marriage, this particular year, I just felt like I want it to be better. I
mm,
want to, maybe there are things I am overlooking. You know, are there things that, you know, maybe my husband has tried to get my attention to, and I'm not really responding? That I just said I was going to approach, like, you know, having fresh eyes, not just thinking, oh, we are boiling, everything is great. But this particular year, I was just like, you know, I want to I want to go on another level. God, I believe that it's possible to have a better experience in my marriage. So God, open my eyes to, you know, new things, you know. So I mean, everybody needs to have that kind of, you know. But don't think, oh, it's terrible, it can't get better, or it's great, it can't get better, you know. So
yes, I think that is important. The premarital education may not always be in one box system, and it was even a bit different some years ago. But I just wanted to know how it was or what it was like for you, and you have shared that. All right. I want to get your thoughts on what you think. There seems to be a lot of fear and a lot of failed marriages being projected, because there are a lot of successful marriages. They're not just being projected as much as the failed marriages. What are your thoughts on the fears that single people have in this day and age, that some have claimed is holding them down from moving ahead just because of the amount of bad news that they are hearing? So it's basically your thoughts on failed marriages and the fear in the land regarding single people.
yeah, I mean, I think you said it, and you know, and that is that as there are failed marriages, there are also successful marriages. There are people enjoying their marriage. There are people thanking God for the spouse that they have. So I think it first starts with that mindset that, look, I can enjoy my marriage. For every bad that I see, you know, it's proof that, you know, there are good ones out there. So it starts with that posture, and then you not just looking out for the great partner, you working on yourself to be the great partner, the partner that great person that you want to, you know, be engaged to. That partner is also, when that partner sees you, that partner also feels like, yes, this is the person that, you know, I, you know, can compliment me. So it's not just, you know, pointing and saying lovely qualities, you know, in someone, and, you know, just saying, this is the kind of person I want. Are you becoming, are you investing in becoming the partner that, you know, people that you desire would want to get in, you know? So, I mean, if we are postured that way, and, you know, continually, you know, reading about success stories, you know, how they did it. And this is a great work that you're doing, you know, sis. So, you know, so hearing, you know, that there's something about testimonies.
Yes.
It gives you faith. It helps you, you know, it keeps you on, you know, you don't let go
Give
of
you
that desire. Exactly. It inspires you. It keeps you, you know, trusting that, yes, you also will be a success story. You also will have a testimony of a great marriage. So, I mean, that's, you know, really it.
Okay, so the final question before we go to your rapid fire question is, you did share while sharing your story at the beginning that you didn't think that you were going to, or well, you were not really interested in getting married to a pastor. So how were you able to work on that bias of, oh, getting married to a person means that it may be boring, or whatever the case may be? We would like to know how you went through the process of working on your own biases, because everybody has one bias or the other. It's just when it's time to make a decision that people know that, oh, okay, I have this bias. Am I going to now work on it or not? Now becomes a choice. So how did you work on that to now say, okay, well, it does not, because it's a pastor doesn't mean the relationship and marriage is going to be boring?
Yeah, I mean, so I had that, but, you know, as we journeyed in the relationship, I realized that it was even me that was not really romantic, you know, because, you know, right from our relationship, we don't call each other by name, we call each other sweetheart. This was something I never could have thought. In fact, it was a struggle when we started to be calling each other sweetheart. And I don't even think I called him sweetheart in public for a long time. Maybe when he was close, I would walk up to him and call him sweetheart. But right from the word go, he was very comfortable, with calling us, calling each other sweetheart.
Was it in your dating days, this sweetheart thing? Was it like in the university days? I just want to
university. From university days, yes.
Okay.
From the word go, he started calling me sweetheart. After some time, I adjusted, and now it's natural. But then I was like, it just seemed like it wasn't, something that was comfortable. You think people would think you are faking or you are whatever, but he did not care. He did not, and it has just stuck, and now it's like a name itself. So stuff like that. We started holding hands. Right from university days. Of course, he was the one holding my hand. I was not the one holding his hand.
It's like that way you deal with all these pastor, all those things. Like it was very interesting. Because you said it was quite sweetheart to hold your hands, but like was it well, you already say it was awkward for you, but were people not looking like what's going on here? Back then it's because
he didn't even care. He didn't even care. He didn't even notice that anybody would think anything. He was comfortable with it, and he continued till I got comfortable with it. So when I say that, over time I realized that I was the one that even needed help with being romantic, and that was one of my fears of being of marrying a pastor that a pastor's romantic. All they know is church, and so I was proved wrong. Even in our courtship, journey. So so things like that would just solidify the fact that we're on the right path.
Thank you so much, Ma. We're getting right into your rapid fire question now, and you're not supposed to spend up to 30 seconds answering the question, so it's just supposed to be on the spot. Well, less than within 0 to 30 seconds you're supposed to have given the answer. So I'll start with the first one, which is, what is your favorite color?
I think it's orange. I'm not sure. I don't have many orange things, but I like the color orange.
Hey, what is your favorite food?
Plantain. Anything with plantain in any way. Plantain in any form.
Okay, what are you allergic to?
Allergic to? Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Do you mean food or anything like that?
Yeah, just generally. It could be dust. It could be anything.
I don't have any.
Okay.
No, I don't have any.
What is your best movie?
My best
movie?
I'm not really a movie person, but I like Pretty Woman. I really love Pretty Woman.
Okay. What of your best book?
Best book. Best book. Let me just say my last book is, I'm still, the last book I read, Eat, Sleep, and Prophesy by Prophet Miriam. That's the last book I read, and it's really an inspiring book.
Okay. Were you born in Nigeria? Were you given birth to in Nigeria by your parents?
Yes, by my dad.
Okay. If you were not born in Nigeria, where would you have liked to be born into? Can you hear me? Okay. I think we couldn't hear each other for a while. If you were not born in Nigeria. Okay. No, I asked you if you are giving birth to in Nigeria. Then you said yes, you're giving birth to Nigeria by your dad. Can you hear me?
It's cracking.
Oh, okay. But can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay,
I
so
can hear you now.
if you were not born in Nigeria, what country would you have liked to be born into?
Maybe Dubai.
That is, I don't even think anybody has said that at this show, but we get you. The seventh, next question is gold or silver?
Silver.
Black or white?
Black.
Yellow or pink?
Pink.
What is one favorite thing about your husband?
Favorite thing. He loves me very much and he shoots it.
What is your favorite attire to wear?
I like flowing things. I like my style is elegant and simple.
Okay.
So I like things that look elegant. Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Sleep.
Sleep. But you're not a kind of person that say like sleep. Okay, what do you like to do for fun?
For fun, shopping.
Okay. Small chops or jollof rice?
Small chops.
Fruit, see. No, I know I said see, because some people are jollof rice, as if jollof rice. Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Okay. Would you rather take the train or would you rather take a ship? Would you go by rail or would you go by water? Waterways or railway?
Let's say rail.
Okay. Bus or an airplane?
Airplane.
Writing or speaking?
Writing.
Okay, the rain or sunshine?
Sunshine.
Okay, would you rather as a practitioner, do you prefer trainings or one-on-one consultation? Which one do you prefer as a
One-on-one.
okay, one-on-one. How do you
One
like
on
to
one.
learn? How do you like to learn? Audio or visual?
Visual.
Would you rather spend a day at the beach or a day in one of your favorite restaurants?
Restaurants.
If you had a superpower to change one thing in Nigeria in the next 24 hours, what would that one thing be that you would like to see changed in Nigeria and why?
Electricity.
Okay, why?
Why? Because that's really the soul of any economy, businesses. I mean, that's the basic. It's like the foundation for thriving economy. So, I mean,
Electricity. And then finally, what would you like to be remembered for?
I would say I'd like to be remembered for contributing to healthy relationships, healthy marriages, helping people make the right decisions in the home front.
And just
contributing to healthy
marriages. One outro question before we close out. What would you say, Mrs. Alayode, to couples, Christian couples, particularly who put God over their relationship, who may be struggling with abstinence before marriage? What words or advice or counsel do you have to share with those set of people?
Sorry, struggling. I didn't really get the set of people struggling with what?
Couples, that's people in a relationship who are struggling with abstinence, that's waiting for sex before marriage, wanting to basically having sex before marriage. What are your words, advice to them as we close out?
Okay, I'm going to say, God is the one who created sex. So sex is holy, sex is beautiful, sex is good. And God is the same person who said, wait until marriage. And we know that, whatever commandments God gives to us, it is for our own benefit. It is for our own, it is to make us better. It is not for him. So if we understand that God is the one who created sex for us, and he's saying, hold on, so it can only be that if I hold on, it's for my advantage. It's to set me up on the right path. It's to have, a right connection with God, a great foundation. So that's what I'm going to say, that if you are not yet married, and you are, engaging in this, it is stop it, trust God to stop it, put boundaries in place, to stop this, so that you are in alignment. If you want God's results, you've got to do, it's God's way. So if you want, the bliss in marriage, if you want, what God says marriage can be, like, then you've got to follow his path. And if you've already made mistakes, ask God for forgiveness, and put the right boundaries in place, make amends and trust God to take you, further in your journey. So that's what I would advise.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Alayode. I think in summary, you cannot expect us. That's why I say for those who believe they are Christian couples, can't expect to want God to watch over your relationship and not do things according to his terms and conditions. It's just not possible.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Ma, for being here today. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. This episode will be on YouTube. Thank you to everybody that has watched and joined us. It's going to be available on YouTube at SAGENEL TV. That is SAGENEL, so that more people in the world that are probably not present on Instagram can get to experience this goodness. Thank you. I'm SAGENEL. I realized I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. I'm SAGENEL. We've been speaking with Mrs. Alayode, and we're continuing on the journey to meeting your husband. Do well to please share this with somebody that you know should watch this episode. Thank you so much, Ma, for being here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.